Hi Busters. Hey, if you remember my ice dye unboxing, well, I decided I needed some color swatches for those new colors, so that's what we're going to make today. Hey, let's see how those turn out. Well, hi YouTube, and welcome back to all my Buster buddies. Hey, it's your big kahuna here, Brad, and this is Brad's Boredom Busters, your tie-dye art channel. I'm still doing physical therapy for the surgery that I had done on my right foot, and I am getting around a little bit better here in the house. So I thought I was managing it well enough that I could do this video because I do need color swatches for these new ice dye colors. So that's what we're going to make today. So let me give you a refresher of the colors. All right, so the colors we have is Kaleidoscope Eyes, Alchemist, Warrior Princess, and Avalon. All right, and so what I did is I took some, I had an old t-shirt that I had just done the design on the front, but the back was still white, and I didn't really like the shirt, and I knew I wasn't going to sell it. So I cut up the back and made squares out of it, and then put the names of each die on the top with a Sharpie. And so then so because it's an older shirt, it was already pre-washed. And so then I soaked this in soda ash solution for 20 minutes. And then I took it out and just wrung it out by hand. I just have the 4 swatches. I didn't want to turn on the wash machine to spin it out. So I wrung it out by hand, but I did want it a little bit drier, even drier than it would be if I had spun it out in the washer. So what I did is I took it over to my ironing board and I put it on the highest heat setting, and then but made sure the steam function was off on the iron. And I ironed it a few times just to help dry it down. Now what happens though is because of the soda ash solution in the fabric, it does kind of solidify some of that soda ash, and so it flaked off a bit, which was easy enough to then wipe off of the fabric and my ironing board into a trash can. But it also does kind of leave a cakey residue on the bottom of the iron. And so if you don't want to, have that, if you use an iron for just hobbies and crafts, that might be okay. But what I suggest is taking just like a Scotch-Brite pad. Use a Scotch-Brite pad after the iron's cool, and just scrub that stuff off the bottom. It should come off with no problem with the Scotch-Brite pad. So anyway, so that's what I did just to dry this down a little bit, because like I say, we're going to ice dye these. And so the way we're going to ice dye them is I'm going to take these little Dixie cups and I'm going to just place the color swatch on the Dixie cup like that, and in my curing tub on the rack, and then just a little bit of dye in the center. And because this is flat, then I can take my ice cube, that the larger ones that I have the mold for, and I have those molds in my affiliate links down in the description. But the square ice cube then can sit on the bottom of the Dixie cup and then melt out. And so I think with just because I've learned that on these ice dyes, less is more. I watched another YouTuber do a color swatch also, and she had put just the smallest amount on there and then her ice on it, but she did hers flat. But you could see, and she did a time lapse, and I'll probably do that as well on my video here. I've never done a time lapse before, and I think this is an appropriate project for that. So let's give that a try. But so I'll put the dye here. But like I said, hers, she put a small amount and the ice. and you can see in the time lapse it just spreading out and color splitting. And so I figured with it kind of like a semi-gravity die with the folds, that it should actually give us our color splits to show us really what this die can do and what it looks like. And so I think it'll be an effective color swatch that way. So anyway, that's the plan, to use the Dixie cup, put the fabric over the top, just a little dot of the dye in the center, place our ice, I'll sprinkle some dry soda ash, and then place the ice cube, and then we'll time lapse it and see how that turns out. So I've got a color swatch made with the name and numbers of all 4 of my colors done. So I think we're all ready. I've got 4 little cups, and I think that's all we need. I've got my soda ash and a little spoon and paper towel over here by my curing tub. So let's head over here. I'll get the camera set up in the other position, get the lights on it, and let's get this done and see how it turns out. All right, I'll see you over here at the table. Okay, Busters, so here we are all set up. Got all my little swatches set up on their little Dixie cups. You can see what dye is going where. So let's start applying the dye. Like I say, try to get just a small amount on each one. Right in the middle. Okay, that is going to be all I'm going to apply. So now let's hit some dry soda ash, though. Sprinkle that on each one. Okay, let me go grab my ice. We'll get that applied, and then I'll set up to do the time lapse, and we'll see where we go from there. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so I got all my ice cubes unmolded. I did that off camera because it's a little bit of a job to get these out of the mold, but I mean, but they're great to use for, you know, this sort of thing. So, all right, let's get them all on here. Okay, so now let me set up the camera for the time lapse, and I'm doing this all indoors just because a lot of times I do my ice time, especially in the summer, outside. It, you know, just helps promote the melting of the ice a little quicker. But because of my foot, it's a little challenging for me to get everything set up out there. So it's warm enough in my room. We're going to do it in here today. Let me set up the time lapse, and hey, we'll see how these turn out. Hopefully really cool. All right, stay tuned. Almost forgot. So before I set up the time lapse, so let me tell you, after the ice melts, obviously, we'll check it. There should be enough, I think, saturation and spreading out of the dyes. But so after the ice is melted, I'll put the lid back on my curing tub here, let them sit in here for 24 hours to cure. And then after their curing time, then I will take them out to the laundry sink. We'll do a rinse out. I'll start with a cold water rinse to flush out the soda ash solution, and then I'll turn it up to hot to flush out any dye that hasn't bonded with the fabric. And then after that, it'll go in the wash with detergent and Synthropol, which is a professional textile detergent, which you can also grab from my affiliate links. And so then after it is washed, I'll bring it back in here. I'll probably iron them, and then I'll do the reveal, and I'll show you what each one of these ice dyes looks like when it's kind of done its thing. Hopefully we get some really cool color splits, but at least we'll get to see generally what colors these dyes show up as on my color swatches. All right, let me set up for the time lapse and enjoy that. All right, Busters, so it's time for our reveal. Hey, I apologize in advance, but I'm going to do this as a handheld reveal, and so forgive me for the shaky camera. I thought it would be easier to show you the color swatches up close if I handheld it. All right, so let's take a look at our results. They're not bad. All right, so this is our 4 colors. And so before we get in close, so you can see how the center of these are rather intense. That's why it's really best to use these dyes as a dye over ice. We put the dye down first and then the ice cube over it, but with that big ice cube, that's kind of the way we would have to do it. But you can see it really leaves a very intense color right where the dye is applied. So having the dye over the ice, it gives it time to dilute and also spread out. But anyway, but we do have some nice color results. So our kaleidoscope eyes, that is, has the greens in it. But you can see we've got a little bit of blue here. Very faint yellow, but I mean, there is a little bit of redness, but it's mostly green and blues for kaleidoscope eye. Alchemist, it's interesting, it gave us this very red center, but you can see it does split off into kind of purples here, but it's mostly blues. I think probably blues and purples and maybe a little bit of red when it's used properly. And also, one other funny thing you'll see on 2 of these swatches, this one and then on Avalon. I don't know if I had some residue on my ironing board because I did iron these out, or if there was something contaminating the fabric, but I've got funny little spots here and there, but I didn't notice those until I actually ironed it. The iron, or the heat of the iron, brought those out. All right, Warrior Princess was interesting because I did all these the same way. You saw it. I put all of them on the ice the same and the cup the same, and they all spread out pretty much the same, except for Warrior Princess. It didn't travel as much as the other 3. But we do have some nice color splits on this one. Of all of them, this one shows up their color splits the nicest. You see the blues, reds, greens, a little bit of amber in the middle. It came out here to some pinks farther out, purple. So, yeah, Warrior Princess is very nice as far as its color splits. It just travels the least. And then our last one is Avalon. And Avalon, like I say, and it had, like I say, this one had the worst with the residue on the fabric. But the color splits on it is interesting because if you can see it, I've got some almost amber greens here, some purples and ambers there, but then obviously it's mostly blue around. But, you know, it does have some nice color splits as well. So, you know, all in all, these worked out pretty well. But like I say, you want to certainly use these. I believe dye over ice will give you the best results. And like I say, less is more. Don't over apply the dye. All right, Busters. So, hey, I hope you liked that video. I hope you thought it was interesting, gave you, showed you some interesting results. Hey, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, if you think it was really cool, and share it around, that helps me out as well. And if you've watched up until this moment and you haven't subscribed yet, well, go ahead and subscribe now. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And don't forget about my affiliate links down in the description below. I have all the normal tools, materials, and chemicals that I use in my videos all in that affiliate link. And so help yourself. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help out my channel. I also have the Buy Me a Coffee page. So go ahead and use any of those to help out my channel. All right. Hey, love all my subscribers. Peace out, baby. And go have fun tie-dyeing.